Jesus, it's been a while. How are you? Give me a smile. Oh, that is so great. I know you usually give gifts to me, but 'tis the season. Oh yeah, just like this. Good. Oh wow, that picture, you took a great picture. Oh my goodness, I have to tweet it now. So, any boat called the Mayflower. This is way before Abraham Lincoln freed the slaves. Coincidentally, like you freed my soul. So they jumped out of the woods, and they had this big hat on, and they did a song and dance like this. And they were riding around on sheep because they'd forgotten the horses back in England. Muzzle loaders, so they were smashing it in like this. A lot of people died that winter. But then Abraham Lincoln said, you know what, we need a holiday. We need people to, be more thankful. They didn't have any food, and they'd never seen a turkey before. Basically, that's the story of Thanksgiving. I think now is a good time for me to tell you what I'm thankful for. Orange soda, Atari. I'm trying to think what else. Scarves, capers, carpet, electricity, hats, sandwich bags, anti-lock brakes. My church finally does the 2-4 instead of the 1 and 3. That was something that I had brought up last time, remedied that. I am thankful for the wave at the stadium. If you had an email address, what would it be? I think it would be, he lives at heaven. I think that about sums it up. I mean, I should probably get going. My kids are still in the car anyway, so. No, that was fishes and loaves. He doesn't do the same thing with turkey and stuffing.
Sorry about that. So a man, he went to the lawyer and he asked him what his fee was, and the lawyer said it's $100 for 3 questions. He goes, $100? That's kind of steep, isn't it? The lawyer said, well, I suppose. Now, what's your 3rd question? So Dan Meyer has written an article about the punctuations of life. For instance, some folks are just caught up with questions. I mean, that's the question mark punctuates their life. Not even, you don't have to be 4 years old for this. By the way, I think I've mentioned this. When my oldest daughter, Katie, when she was 4 years old, we were on a trip from the back seat in her car seat. She asked 32 questions in 30 miles. I was driving 60 miles an hour. That's a question a minute. I counted them. But she comes by it naturally. I ask questions. That's kind of how I'm wired. I want to know things. I wonder about things. Why do, bad things happen to decent people? And why do good things happen to bad people? Why do things happen at all? I like to get at the deeper things, like, do fish ever get thirsty? Like, I want to know things like that. And why do we park in driveways and drive in parkways? Why is that? But God, He doesn't diminish questions. He doesn't suggest we shouldn't ask. In fact, He welcomes our questions if they're honest. Jesus asked great questions. But I don't want to get to the end of my life and kind of have it defined only by a question mark. It'd be pretty sad if my obituary was just questions and no affirmations at all. On the other hand, I don't want to have my grave marked with a bunch of commas. Like John, he just packed all this stuff into his life. And he just went on from one thing to another, always going on to the next thing, just comma after comma. He never stopped and paused for anything. Right? It's pretty, if my life was simply characterized by never pausing, by never stopping and smelling the roses and such, but just stuffing it full, flying by. But it's possible to be punctuated by too many stops or periods, in the sense of, yes, God told us to slow down. He told us to fashion the Sabbath idea, to put a period at the end of each week, so as to suggest that we recalibrate and pause and worship. But it's possible, isn't it? You have trauma in your past, or you have pain, or you have an addiction, or something that causes you to get stuck. And so it's a full stop. And all of a sudden now, I can only see my life in terms of my storyline, in terms of what's happened behind me. I can't envision a new sentence being written, or that God would even have a new story to write. What would people closest to you say would be the punctuation mark that is evident in going, or you're at a full stop, you're kind of stuck? I think that, honestly, we all have areas of our life where any of these punctuation marks might fit, and all of them seem to be connected to a sense of discontent. Do you agree? So, I don't have all the answers in my life. It's not as easy. Why, God? Why? Or I don't know who I am, so I'm just going from one thing to the next. I'm just busy. I just want to keep busy and keep driving. Or I don't have the life I used to have, so now here I am. I'm stuck. I watched an episode of 60 Minutes last Sunday, and it was focused on our ports and how they're log-jammed right now. You certainly heard about our supply chain problems that we're having in our country, and significant problems in LA and then on the East Coast. And you know how this is, it's kind of a mess. It's kind of frustrating actually to watch, because whenever there's a mess, there's going to be a lot of finger pointing as to who made the mess and who should clean it up and who's not carrying their load in cleaning it up. I was getting a little frustrated. You know what never occurred to me as I was watching this episode? That by no merit of my own, I was born and live in a country that has a gigantic supply chain. So much so that it can glut our ports. Whereas many other countries, many other communities have no supply chain, or very little, meager supply chain. Never even occurred to me. Thanksgiving, and I don't mean the holiday, I mean this attitude, this practice, is as vital to our lives as it is elusive to sustain, it seems. And especially, ironically, when we have abundance, when we have gigantic supply chains. That's when God said, He said to His people, He says, when you stand, they're standing at the threshold of the promised land flowing with milk and honey. He says, now's the time to be careful. Not when you're in scarcity, but when you come into plenty. When you have it all, when you have the supply chain, you have more supplies than you need, that's when you got to be careful lest you forget the Lord your God. That He's the one who's chosen you. He's the one who's graced you. He's the one who stands behind all of your success and all of your blessing. And it's kind of that reality in mind, I think, that God wove into the life of His people daily prayers, weekly Sabbaths, and annual feasts, or times for which for them to put an exclamation point of thanksgiving. That your life should be punctuated daily, weekly, yearly with thankfulness in your heart. A study was done which observed how parents teach their children to say hi, thank you, and goodbye. And the children in the study spontaneously, without prompting, said hi 27% of the time. They said goodbye 25% of the time, and they said thank you 7% of the time. So parents had to prompt their children to say hi 28%, goodbye 33%, but they had to prompt them to say thank you 51% of the time. And the conclusion of this study suggests that we have a harder time learning to say thank you, and that our kids have to literally be brought up to do this. It doesn't come natural to us. Our natural bent is to kind of turn in to ourselves. But to say thank you, we have to actually teach them and train them, and the words usually come before they understand the meaning, so the feelings follow later. Here's the uptick, or the upside, is that once a person learns this, once a person begins to practice this and actually feels this, that's a lesson that tends to stick. So why did God wire into His people these daily prayers, weekly Sabbaths, and yearly festivals? He's just teaching His kids, isn't He? He's just trying to bring us up, teach us how to say thank you, how to believe it from your heart, how to live that way. We have to be discipled into it. You have to be kind of brought into it so that the lesson will stick. 1 Chronicles 16 is where we're looking this morning, and it is a picture, I would say, of this exclamation point of thanksgiving in the life of the children of Israel. I'll give you a little backstory, quick backstory here to this. So King Saul, do you remember King Saul? He was the first king of the United Kingdom of Israel. had a pretty troublesome reign, but he's done now. He's over. His reign is over. And he's now followed and succeeded by the shepherd warrior king David. And David is acclaimed both by popular and by prophetic word as king over the people. David has led not just one, but two military victories over their arch enemy, the Philistines. Remember the Philistines? And so 2 victories over them. He has conquered and captured the city, the crown jewel of Palestine, Jerusalem. It will become known as the city of David. David has ordered that the Ark of the Covenant, that's this box that God told them to make, and in it he would keep the law of God. It also was this symbol of God's presence and his promise. David said, I want this Ark of the Covenant, I want it placed in the center of his city, in the center of Jerusalem. Why? So we're reminded, it's not my kingdom. It's not your kingdom. It's God's kingdom. And as long as he's at the center, we'll be all right. So they bring the Ark of the Covenant in with great procession. Consider this the first Thanksgiving Day parade, except they weren't selling anything. They were there to give praise to God. And so it's processed in, and there's literally dancing on the streets, and David is leading them. And that brings us up to the text. So chapter 16 begins, they brought the Ark of the God, placed it inside the special tent David had prepared for it. They presented burnt offerings and peace offerings to God. And when he had finished his sacrifices, notice David sacrifices first. David blessed the people in the name of the Lord, not just with a blessing or words, but then he gave every man and every woman in all of Israel a loaf of bread, a portion of meat, and a cake of raisins. Not turkey and pumpkin pie, but this is the fixings of their Thanksgiving meal. And then it goes on to say that David appointed leaders from the tribe of Levi, that's the worship leader tribe, and gave them these 3 tasks. Number 1, you're to make petition. Number 2, give thanks. Number 3, praise the Lord. In other words, one group, their job was to name all their prayer requests. The next group was to think of as many things as they could list that they're thankful for. And then the last group was to lead the whole church, to lead the whole group in worship and praise using guitars, piano, drum, pipe organ, synthesizers, and whatever the Hebrew equivalent was. And this is the picture. You get the picture. This is a Thanksgiving worship service. It's the first Thanksgiving ever to be held in Jerusalem. And David does what he often does. He's this brilliant artist, gifted artist, who writes a psalm for the day, a Thanksgiving psalm for the day, contained here in 1 Chronicles 16, And he uses this phrase that we've painted on our wall. Give thanks to the Lord, for he is good. His love endures forever. It's one of his favorite. Appears in a lot of his psalms, a lot of his writings. Say it with me. Give thanks to the Lord, for he is good. His love endures forever. And what this is, it actually creates an outline for the psalm that he writes. And in it, kind of woven within each phrase, is a principle for sustaining thanksgiving. It's a way of keeping a thankful heart an exclamation point of our daily life. First, give thanks to the Lord, he says. The principle is, more gratitude doesn't come from more acquisitions. We figured that out yet? We should know that. We're the most affluent country in the history of the world. More gratitude doesn't come from acquisitions. It comes from the practice of the presence of God. You've probably read this. It's this time of year, it's all over the place. There are practical, even health benefits for generating thanksgiving in your heart. You know that? So, University of Georgia, they convened a study, sponsored a study, 468 married couples. And they surveyed relationship satisfaction. Here's what they found. They covered everything. Communication, finances, in-laws, the whole gamut. They said this: the most consistent, significant predictor of happy marriages was whether gratitude was a natural expression between spouses. Clinical trials have indicated that there is a correlation between gratitude, genuine gratitude, and lower blood pressure, improved immune function, better heart health, and even efficient sleep. It's like gratitude has the opposite effect that stress does on our life. Now you're wondering about your kids. What about students and adolescents? When compared to their less grateful counterparts, grateful students are generally happier, they're more optimistic, they have better social support, they're more satisfied with school, family, community, and friends. They also tend to have less headaches, stomach aches, and runny noses, as well as being less envious, depressed, and materialistic. And that certainly would apply to adults as well. You can read all of this. This is all a given. This is all true. But it's not the principle. It's not the principle. It's not the things that is ultimately going to make gratitude the mark my soul, or change or heal this bent of my spirit in on itself, this bent towards selfishness. I want you to notice the direction that his psalm begins. What's the emphasis? Give thanks to the Lord and proclaim whose greatness? Let the whole world know what he has done. Sing to him, sing praises, sing his praises. Tell everyone about his wonderful deeds. Verse 11. Search for the Lord and for his strength. Continually seek him. Remember the wonders he has performed, his miracles, the rulings he has given. Remember his covenant forever, the commitment that he has made to 1,000 generations. Who the Lord is, what the Lord has done. Seeking the Lord not only fuels a thankful heart, it actually shapes it. It actually reshapes the heart. Think of a dad who gives his child a little bag of Skittles just because, just a treat. They're yours. And as the little child begins to open the bag, the dad says, "Can I have one or two?" Now, the child is brought to that moment of decision. There's a moment as to how they're going to express thanksgiving. I can express thanks like this, it's mine, or I can express thanks like this, and I'll share with my dad. And you know that when a child moves from this to this, that they're growing up, that they're maturing, that they're seeing things as they really are, that the bag of Skittles belongs to dad. He purchased it, he gave it simply out of the goodness of his heart to bless his child. The acquisition of Skittles doesn't create gratitude. The relationship with the Father as the blesser, as the giver, does. For he is good. Give thanks to the Lord, for he is good. Principle number 2, gratitude withers with entitlement, but it grows with humility. David goes on to say, here's the reason that we thank God for his promises. The reason we thank him for his promises, covenant promises. For them it was a land, a people, and ultimately a Messiah. Why do we thank God for these promises? Because God promised us these things, he says in verse 19, when you were just a tiny group of strangers in Canaan. Another translation, you were not much to look at. Few straggling strangers wandering from nation to nation, from kingdom to kingdom. If there is one thing about the storyline of God with his people all through the Bible to date, it's this. He is good, not because you deserve it, not because you're entitled. Quite the opposite. No one is righteous, not even one. All have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. The wages of sin is death, on and on. In fact, I don't want what I deserve. Jesus came to save me from what I'm entitled to. Got it? In fact, that's one of the reasons why, in a Christian framework, ingratitude is not just kind of a psychological problem or a sign of immaturity. It's a sin. And in its worst form, it becomes a hallmark of a life that's opposed to God, that stiff-arms God. This is how Paul describes that kind of life In Romans 1, he says, for although they knew God, they know that there's some higher power out there, there's got to be something, right? They know that. But they don't glorify him, God, as God. And they don't thank him as God. And so their minds become darkened, they become confused, and pretty soon they start worshiping created things rather than the Creator. Rather than the life-giving and ever-living God, they start worshiping idols, facsimiles of God made by their own hands. Someone has said that the essence of sin is not ingratitude, it's misguided gratitude. It's when I'm assigning ultimate place and worship to God's substitutes, things or people that aren't God and can't be God. I want you to notice how David here, he says, right-guided thanksgiving always separates God in the sense that God and God alone is holy. He is other than. He is not holy, he's holy, holy. No, he's holy, holy, holy. There is no other God. There is no other substitute. He says, great is the Lord. He is most worthy of praise. He's to be feared above all gods, little g. Because all the other God substitutes are mere idols. But the Lord made the heavens. Honor and majesty surround him. Strength and joy fill his dwelling. Whom do you thank, God, when everything is going well? Who do you turn to when everything is going badly? What is your source of security? Who do I look to for my real sense of self, my real sense of worth? What drives me? What am I striving for in life and why? You answer those questions honestly and you really get at what I worship. Who holds the place of God? Gratitude withers with entitlement, but it grows with humility. Humility is just right-sizing God and then myself in relation to him. Give thanks to the Lord, for he is good. His love endures forever. God endures. Just dwell on that for a second. God endures. It's saying that his love is faithful. He doesn't waffle. He doesn't waver. He isn't good one day and then iffy the next. His love endures. But think about this. For God to love you, he has to endure. Are you with me? Right? He has to endure. Third principle. Gratitude for God's endurance with you, with us, helps us to be grateful with imperfect people and imperfect circumstances. I want to put two verses side by side. Verse 23 stuck out to me, and then this other verse you've heard of, but you probably couldn't have found. So verse 23 says, let the whole earth sing to the Lord. Here's the part. Each day, every day, I have reason to proclaim the good news that he saves. Every day. And then this other verse from Lamentations 3, you've heard it before. The faithful love of the Lord never ends. His mercies never cease. Great is his faithfulness. His mercies begin afresh each day. His mercies are new, brand new every day. The word for new, the Hebrew word, is hadas. It means never before experienced. I want you to think about this. The fact of God's mercy never changes. The application of his mercy is always new. It is ever different. Think about that. Every day, brand new, fresh mercies. Why? Because we have a variety of sins. You have a variety of sins in your life? Every nuance, every variety of sin in your life is covered by the mercy of God. Every day, it's fresh and new. Here's a little exercise. Figure out how old you are, not by your years, but by your days. Take your age, times them by 365. That would be the sum total, so to speak, of the many different various ways God's mercy has been applied to you. So I'm just shy of 24,000 ways that God has showered his mercy upon John Grice's life. And if you're like me, I times that by 10 because his mercy is multiplied throughout a day for me. Just dwell on that. Let that lead you to thanksgiving and then allow God's endurance of love toward you to let you think about how you're going to respond to those imperfect people and circumstances around you. His mercies are fresh every day, so each day we have a chance to proclaim the good news that he saves. And if you're waiting for people to shape up, if you're waiting for your circumstances to work out before you're going to be grateful, before I'm going to start this practice, we're going to be waiting a long time. Give thanks to the Lord in all circumstances. Punctuate your life with thanksgiving, because this is the suggestion. Nope. This is a good idea. Nope. This is the will of God for you in Christ Jesus. A couple of weeks ago, some of us from church here went to Footville Church, and we were packing meals for Haiti. You kind of stand in an assembly line, and you're putting these meals together in a bag to be shipped off to folks. And we had about 6 or 7 of us there in this assembly line, and just chit-chatting. Somebody asked the question, well, what have you been reading lately? And the woman across from me, she said, I've been reading this fantastic book by Corrie ten Boom, is her name. It's called The Hiding Place. Anybody read it? It's a must-read if you've never read it. Must-read. And Corrie ten Boom with her sister Betsy and their parents, they were Dutch Christians who hid Jews during the Nazi Holocaust. They were found out. So they're separated as a family, shipped to concentration camps. Betsy and Corrie, they were sent to the infamous Ravensbrück concentration camp. And as you see by the picture, these women were just shoved in this barracks, terribly overly crowded and flea infested. Just a hideous place to be. Somehow, by miracle, they were able to smuggle in a Bible into their barracks. Betsy ten Boom, she was a force of nature for Jesus. Amazing lady. She didn't survive that concentration camp. But she would read from the Bible, and she read the scripture that we just read, 1 Thessalonians 5:17. Give thanks to the Lord in all circumstances, for this is the will of God for you in Christ according to his purpose. And she read that, and she came up with the idea that we need to thank God even for the fleas. And Corrie said, no way, I'm not doing it. I'll thank him for who he is and what he's done. I'm not thanking him for fleas. But Betsy was insistent. She gave in, Corrie did, and they thank God even for the fleas. An interesting thing happened over the next couple of months. More and more the guards stopped coming into their barracks, which meant that women weren't assaulted, and that the most unlikely thing happened. In the middle of a Nazi concentration camp, they were having open Bible studies and prayer meetings, and countless numbers of these women came to Jesus because of that. And you kind of see where this is going, right? Why weren't those guards coming in? Why did they stop coming in? It's because of all the fleas in their barracks. As we pray, and our praise team can come, I want to suggest to you, this is Thanksgiving week. So I'm going to give you a punctuation experiment for Thanksgiving week. I'm going to give you 4 options, and you just choose one. I'll give you 4, and you choose one. Number 1, this week, type into your phone or on your journal, or just grab a piece of paper and literally write down 3 things, specific things you're thankful each day for 7 days. Starting today, write down 3 things. And here's the thing, they need to be specific, and here's the fun part. If you forget during the week, if you forget a day, then you have to start over. You'll be good for it. Okay? Number 1. Number 2, here, write a physical note or letter to someone for whom you're thankful. 2 issues here is be specific. Not a general thank you. I'm specifically thankful for this from you. And second, actually, you can't email or text this one. You have to get you know what a physical card or letter looks like? It's this actual paper, pointy thing that has ink in it. It's called a pen. You actually write it out. Third, David, ingenious psalm writer, so don't be intimidated, but write your own psalm this week. And you can be like David. It can be 176 verses if you want to, or just 2. He did them both. So you just write out your psalm of thanksgiving to God. And the last option, share some of your Skittles this week. So give somebody a financial gift. And if you don't have money, then do something even more priceless. Give them a gift of time. or help. And if you want to make it really fun, make sure it's anonymous. Work it out so that it's an anonymous gift of Skittles. All right, let's sing.